Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Learn React in 2020. I am super pumped for this episode. I have no idea why, but let's do it. Okay, cool. Alright, so in this episode, I will start by cleaning the code. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. I'm gonna go back to some of the things that we have written before, and I will explain why it basically sucks, and we are going to rewrite it. And I'm glad that the code base hasn't really exploded or became really, really big. So we can do that conveniently. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. Second thing is, I hate the fact that this looks like that. So we are going to fix that to make it a little bit more presentable. Let's get started. So the first thing I would like to do is actually this. Why is the card to the left-hand side? I don't like that at all, and we can fix that. I have no idea under what condition we put this in, but that doesn't have to be like that. So first of all, the width of this will be 100 of the view width, which is good. Because it's a flex container, we can do justify content to be the center, and bam, it's right down in the middle. So that's the first fix. Good, so let's keep going. Now, if we visit the weather engine, you will see first of all, we don't use this anymore, this function anymore. So boom, let's clean that up. Awesome, that's all right. So far, so good. Now, here is, not a very good code that we should have never written that way. So there are different ways to write conditional rendering in React, and this is definitely one of the worst ways to do it. So instead of doing things that way, what you would do, and I think in my opinion this is the cleanest way to write React code that way, you say something like, if there is an error, then what you do, if there's an error, then what you do is return whatever you want to return in the error, which I think is this piece here. All right, cool. So let's copy that. Actually, let's just take that out and smash it in here. So that means when we re-render, the code is going to be executed this way, and if error is true, this is going to be returned and gone. Okay, that's the first condition. The second condition we need to handle is if there's loading. So also you could put this in if its own if statement. If there's loading, what you do is you return this stuff. Okay, good. Now, lastly, if there is no error and there is no loading, just simply show the stuff for the user, which we can render a weather card here like this. So basically that's it. This is going to be, this is loading. Okay, this is going to be the easiest way and the cleanest way to write conditional rendering. So again, if there is an error, then return this, and we can test that it works. So let me write my name here. And there's an error. This gets returned. You return that, and if you're loading, if there is loading, so if we write if you're loading, we show the loading, and otherwise, then just render the weather card. Now, keep in mind that if we do this, if there is no error, if there is no error and there is no loading, and yeah, see, even because it doesn't make sense, I can't even write it properly. If there is no error and there is no loading, then return whatever, which is going to be this. You can see that it's not really the best way to write this down. Like, it's kind of redundant because what's happening here is error is a boolean. It can be either true or false, and loading is a boolean, can be true or false. So what you're doing is more like redirection, you know. So if there's an error, you render this, and that's it. Because you return something, that's it. That the rest of the execution will not happen. And if there is loading, you return this, and again, the rest of the execution will not happen. And if these two statements are false, then you just return whatever is here. So there's no need to check this anymore. So we don't really need that. So again, what you do is, if there is an error, do that. If there is loading, do that. And if none of them is true, it means you have went to this point in the execution, then you return whatever you want to show the user. That's good. If we go back here to conditions, for example, this is again cleaning up the code. You will see that we have this real style object inside of the component. So every time this component gets re-rendered, this object will have to be recreated, which is not the best way to handle it. So it's much better if you put that outside like that. So that is done. here is another part that we have done conditional rendering in the most horrendous way. So let's basically put this in a better way. So what we have here is, if there is no input mode, then you show this the city itself, right? And if there is input mode, then you show the input part in the container. So what you want to do is basically say something like this: if there is input mode, if we are in input mode, then what we want to do is return this form here for people to actually input stuff. So we return this form here, and that's it. If there is no input mode, which is the other thing, we will basically return the city. We will basically return the city and the country, and there's no need for the space here as well. And that's it. Very, very simple. If there is input mode, then you return the form. Oh yeah, the reason here a bit different in the styling, because we haven't wrapped this in the container like the rest. So let's do that as well. So what you can do is you can wrap this in container here, and you can smash it here. All right, that's good. So if there is input mode, then you show, if there is input mode, you show this, and if there's no input mode, then you show the city itself. All right, now the next thing that I would like to focus on is actually the styling of this, because this looks really, really weird. So first of all, I'll make it consistent. So I'll always show it when I switch this to be true. It's always going to be in input mode just to work on it. Now we will keep using our own methodology in this project in general, which is going to be styled component. So we can change this into form element as a styled component here, and we can go down here and create it. Now just create it after container here, because it makes more sense. And then const here is going to be form element equals styled dot form. Okay, good. And let's not put anything there for a second. And now let's do the same thing also for the input. Input is going to be input field, alrighty. Now the same thing, let's go and just change these into input field equals styled.input with nothing on it for now. And then we need two things. We need search button. We need search button, which is going to be styled button. Okay, and lastly, we need also, I don't want to have that cancel button. It looks horrible. So what I will have is just an icon, like an X icon to click on. So that is going to be our cancel button. Our cancel button. And because it's not actually a button, I am going to compose a span. Okay, beautiful. So far so good. Now let's use these things. So this button is going to be the search button right there and here as well. So this is going to be search button. And instead of this being a button is, again, yeah, it doesn't matter. So we just change this to cancel button. Okay, good. So that will look like this, and we can change this to just an X basically. Yep, just a tick on it, and supposedly when you click on it, you will cancel the input mode. Good. Now, think about this in terms of, we have a form element, and this is the main div, and inside that we have three things right there. So the first thing we would like to actually do is make sure that this form element is going to be kind of contain them in a better way. So to do this, I'm going to use display flex I'll make this flex container basically, and I'll also give it position. I'll also give it a position of relative, and the reason for this is because I want this X to be position absolute, because I'm gonna place it somewhere here. So on the same token, we can go here and we can give this guy position of absolute. I hope here, yep, okay, good. So if we save this, now it's kind of all over the place. So let's give it a background of pink so we can see it. I don't know why I choose pink. Anyway, let's move on. So it's over there. Now this is obviously the wrong location. So let's correct that location a little bit by giving it 8 pixels on the, stop doing this, 8 pixels in the top, and right. Let's give it a right off. What is that going to be? Let's do maybe negative 10 pixels. Oopsie, just 10 pixels. Yeah, yes, 10 pixels, and that will push it right there. This is the beautifully correct location for now. Now, the next thing we need to do you see that button? Let's just turn our attention to the button, for example. So first of all, there's no padding on it. That's one of the reasons why it looks horrible, and there are many reasons, but let's fix them one by one. So first of all, just give it a padding of 4 pixels. So that will give it a little bit more of presence in the page. So that is good. Now, the second thing is give it a background, let's just say of blue, just to give it a little bit of separation. And once you do that, you will see that the borders are absolutely ridiculous. So we need to take away all those borders. So now it looks a little bit more. And the look I'm going for is something where the separation between the input box and the search button is a little bit blurred. So yeah, this is the kind of the look that I'm going for. So yep. This is so far so good. Now, what else can we do here? Do you see when we click on the input, do you see the outline? I don't like that. So let's start by actually taking that away. So let's do, the way you would do that is you will go, because it's inside the input field. So input and then focus on this input. What you do is you do outline of 0. You do outline of 0. And that will take away the outline when you focus on it. That's beautiful. At the same time, this is like the text is very, very close here, and I don't like that at all. So it needs a little bit of padding as well. So we can give this a padding of 5 pixels, maybe 5 pixels, 4 pixels, around that range. Ooh. 5 pixels if I can type it, so that when you click on it here, I think you can get a little bit better idea of it, and we can stick both of them to 4 pixels so it's a bit more consistent. Good. Now you see this is kind of like overpowering and very, very big, so we can change this to a little bit of specific width by giving it like width of 80 pixels maybe. Yes, it's getting better finally. Now, what else do we need to do? We need to give it, so I don't want the color to be kind of controlled by the input itself. I want the color to be controlled by the container. So we can give here a background of, let's just say, not blue, violet, for example, anything just to get started. That will give it this, and you can see you can't see much because input is taking out everything else. So what we will do is we will give input a transparent background. And now I can see this. And once you do that, of course, you can see that there is an inset border on the input that makes it look horrible for our usage here. So basically we give it the same treatment of border of none. So that will take out all the borders there. Okay, that's good. So far so good. And now it looks a little bit more streamlined. Now on the same topic, what we can do now is now the color here is still black. Yeah, leave that. We can actually change that color to white. So we can give it a color of white. I will go back to change these like background colors, of course. Just give me a second. So now when you search here, it's going to be in white. That's good. Now, what we can do also is give our container some border radius. Give our container some border radius of, say, for example, that was going to be 5 pixels. Yeah, 5 pixels will look okay. So that will give it a little bit of rounding. And if you zoom in here a little bit, you will see that the rounding is kind of broken when it comes to the button. So let's fix that. So to do that, border, I think it's like border top right, yes, dash radius, border top radius. Border, I think it's like that, border top right radius, I think so, yeah, border top right radius, and give it 5 pixels. And then we can copy this line, paste it, and instead of top here, we can do bottom. Border top right radius equal 5 pixels, and yes, beautiful. You see that rounding here is really nice. And we can give this button as well a color of white, so the text inside is white. Okay, good. So far, so good. Now let's pay attention to that X, which looks absolutely ridiculous right now. So let's change this background. Actually, let's just keep the background for now. First of all, this is a clickable thing. So the cursor on it has to be a pointer. Cursor pointer, thank you, VS Code. And the next thing is, I want it to be some kind of a circle, you know? So for that, we need to give it a width of 20 pixels, for example. And we need to give it a height of another 20 pixels, wow. And then we give it a border dash radius. I swear to God, I don't even remember when was the last time I used border range. I have no idea what that means even. So that would be 50%. That would be 50%. Is that correct? Yeah. So that will round things up a little bit. Are we good, VS Code? Yep. Why are you not showing me stuff? Okay, good. So that is way too big. Now, yeah, I think it's way too big actually. What we can do is we can lift it up a little bit more. So change this to 10. Okay, good. Now, I think this, I'll change the colors now, but leave it like this. I think it's okay, but we can, this is a capital X. Just make it normal X. No, actually just leave it as capital X. Okay, but I really think it's too big. Maybe because I'm zoomed in. Oh no, it is too big. 100% it is too big. Okay, let's make it normal X to start with, and then let's just change this to say 12 pixels instead of 20 pixels. Yeah, this is because the size of the text and all. Okay, just leave it at 20 pixels. No, maybe that's 20 is a bit too much, but we can find something else. So 15 pixels. Let me try horrible. Okay, good. Now how about 17 pixels? You could also do this in a better way, which is going to be, okay, here is how we are going to do this properly. So you made this 17 and now it's a circle. So what you do is you display this as flex, and once you do this, you could justify content to be in the center, and you could align dash items. Give me a break, dude. I haven't written CSS in a while actually. Align items to be center. That will center the text right there, and that will make it look a little bit better. Actually, it's still not good, so let's stick this to 20 and show me how that looks like now. Yeah, I think it's better. Actually, no, it's not. Yeah, this is how you do CSS. Okay, I think align items, center, justify content, center, border radius, the top, and display flex. Not sure why this looks really bad. Let's go to inspect it. Why is the content not in the center? We have here border radius 50%. Yes, align items in the center, justify content in the center. So I think this needs to have a smaller font size. Yep. So font size here, just make it 0.9 rems. Yes, it looks a little bit better, but it's still not in the center. What is going on here? Yes, here we go. That will make it better. No, this is horrible. Okay, good. So put this to 0.8. Okay, and I still think we need to change this to a big X. Okay, so basically I think this will make it look better. So just give it, see, that's my point. And then just font size, so it wasn't taking the whole space because it was a small X. So this font size is going to make it a little bit more. Font size is 0.8 rems. Yes, now it's looking good. Yep, I like it that way. Okay, this is good. Not too big, not too small. It's good, good, good. Now, I hate the fact that, okay, if I cancel this and go here, I'm not having the focus on that input. So let's fix that. And for this, we are going to use a ref. Now, if you haven't used ref before, so it's basically literally a reference to some kind of DOM element inside of the DOM. Not the virtual DOM, but the actual HTML DOM. And the reason why you want to use refs is you want to get a reference to a DOM element that reference is going to be consistent over different rendering from React. So what I'm doing here is I am going to attach a reference to that element, that input field. So I'm going to call it input ref, and I now have access to that DOM element across different renders. So how I'm going to use this is I'm simply going to say what you do is you run this every time the input mode changes. So every time the input mode changes, what you do is if we are in input mode, what you do is you go like input ref dot current dot focus, So focus on that input ref. Now, if you can see, once I go here and I go here, and then once I click inside input mode, this will get triggered because the input mode has changed, and then I'm having focus inside this input field directly, because I hate it when you click on something that shows you an input field, but the focus doesn't move there. Good, so this is just a little bit, these little things that make the whole app feels much nicer, which is really, really important. Now, another thing I want to do here is actually fix those horrible colors. So let's do that. I have some colors here that will go with the theme. So the close button here, where is it? The close button here, this is going to be this color, which is dark blue, but yeah, that looks okay. And then now on the search button, we will give it a little bit I think a little bit darker color. So where is this? Again, never mind that. We give it this color. And lastly, the form element itself, which contains the whole thing, is instead of this blue violet is going to be this color. So you can see it looks a little bit more consistent. Now, I don't like the fact that this button here is kind of, yeah, it's actually okay, but I think it will look better if we give it some box shadow. So where's the cancel button? What you do here is you give it some box shadow. Yep, it's like that. I don't know what's up with you, VS Code. 1 pixel box shadow in the x-axis, 0 in the y-axis, and maybe give it a little bit of blur. And this is going to be a very kind of like minor box shadow. I just wanted to stand up a little bit, a tiny little bit. Actually, that's even too much. So we can change this to 0.4, I think. And yeah, this is just to make it stand up a little bit. And I still think this is too much. So drop it down, just a tap. Yep, this is good. Now, another thing also is that when you click on search, I don't know why the cursor has changed. So because we are controlling the style now, of course. Yep, so change this to cursor of pointer. And this looks much better already. Oh, beautiful. Okay, let's zoom out and look at it. Okay, beautiful. Now, this looks much better already, but I think we can add a little bit of animations to it, so it looks a little bit sexier when it shows up. And again, this is one of the things that was driving me nuts before, but nowadays, now that we use Framer Motion, is actually very, very simple. So all you need to do is say, I need a motion of a div, like a div motion. And now what we have, I will just give it a very, very, very simple effect. So when initially the opacity will be 0, and when you render it, animate it to an opacity of 1. Opacity of 1. Very, very simple. And you will see it's going to be a very, very subtle animation here. You click and it shows up, and then it gives you focus. I love it. Isn't that beautiful, eh? I actually really like this. Okay, cool. Nice. And then I think that padding needs to change, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, I think this needs to go up a little bit. to 5, and then also here to 5. Yes, this is better. I don't know what this is, but yeah, this is looking better. And then you go back here because we have this starting as true, so trust this as false, and we are good to go. I think so, right? Yep, beautiful. So you can see in this, okay, awesome. So in this episode, we have cleaned up the code a little bit by talking about how to do conditional rendering properly. We have styled the inputs so it doesn't look like it's from the 1950s. And they used input refs just to make sure that the user gets the right focus when he clicks on searching. And lastly, we have also made a little bit of animations here to delight the user when they use your app. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.